or something that was developed by your program chair or another faculty member at your particular campus. So if you're using a locally developed shell, that pairing process will occur by the individual faculty member yourself, and you will have to locate a course key, and I'll talk about where you would obtain the course key. We don't provide those keys for you at Cengage. You have to actually locate the course key within the original source course. And again, I'll be showing you that actual process. The main goal here is just to kind of get you to thinking about which course are you using. Are you using the standardized course, or are you using a locally developed course? And if you're using the standardized course, where can you obtain the course keys, versus if you're using a locally developed shell, where can you obtain the course keys? So basically, the importance of course keys, since we're talking about course keys, this is just going to ensure that you are copying the correct version of your Cengage materials. So you have to use the appropriate course key to make sure you're receiving the appropriate snapshot of the Cengage materials that you're using. So again, if you're teaching that standardized statewide shell for online, you don't have to worry about obtaining a course key, because we're going to take care of that for you. If you are using the standardized statewide shell in your face-to-face, we're going to provide you after this training with a list, and it's going to list all of those course keys if you plan on pairing it yourself, or again, if you request for Cengage to pair it, we can do that for you. We'll just need your CRN number, and then I'm going to show you how you can locate the course keys if you're using a locally developed course. All right, so I mentioned that we're going to be providing you with a list of course keys that you will need during the pairing process if you're using that standardized shell in your face-to-face course. So these course keys may change from semester to semester, so always make sure you're referring to the list that we're providing on a semester-by-semester basis. But you'll see when we provide you this spreadsheet, it talks about some action required on your part. And you're either going to be choosing from one or two actions, which we'll be walking through in a moment when we go through the process live. Now, if you're teaching one of those locally developed courses, more than likely a majority of you are either using MindTap or you're using a program called STEM. And you may be wondering, where can I locate that course key? So again, whoever developed that course, they should be able to locate the course key for you. Or if you taught the course last semester and you want to know how to locate the course key in that previous semester, in MindTap, you're just going to click on your name in MindTap, and then there's a course setup link that you can click on, and that's where you can obtain the course key. Within SAM, in your older course, if you click on the question mark, and you'll see a link that says SAM LMS integration course key. So hopefully this is making sense to you. If not, it will be a lot clearer when I actually go through the process with you, as if I am a first-time instructor and I'm trying to pair my course on my own. I'm going to walk through the process that I would follow and that you would follow if you wanted to set up your Cengage learning materials.
There you go, buddy.
I'm just going to go to, yes, do we have a question? I think somebody's just talking in the background. Okay, so I am going to share I'm going to go to Blackboard right now. And first, I'm going to pair for a course using SAM. So I'm going to walk through this process for CINS 101, but if you're using SAM in one of the both courses, this process is going to be the same for you. All right, so first I'm just going to log into Blackboard. So it looks like I am already logged in. So we're going to assume that I am teaching CINS 101. So I'm going to locate my CINS 101 course for this semester, and I'm going to go ahead and click into that course. All right. And the first thing I want to do is to determine where the Cengage learning links are. For the most part, for some of the courses, you're going to find within the instructor resources. If you go to the instructor resources, you're going to find a link to your Cengage learning materials. And again, you can easily identify a Cengage learning resource by the following blue logo. If you go to your instructor resources and you don't see a link, then more than likely you'll have to go to one of the class session folders to locate a Cengage learning link. So for example, let's say I go into session 4. And if I scroll down, I'm going to see my different Cengage learning materials. So this is the beginning of the semester. I have to activate or pair these resources. I'm going to go ahead and click on this link here. So when I do, if you've never used a Cengage learning materials before in Blackboard, you may be prompted to enter in your Cengage learning username and password. I've already completed that process in past semesters, so it's not asking me again. But if you encounter a screen asking you to log in to Cengage, just enter in your Cengage username and password. If you're not sure if you have one, or if you don't have one, you can always contact your local Cengage representative. But again, you're only going to have to do that once ever in life, and I'm not being prompted to enter my credentials because I've done that in previous semesters. However, I am being prompted to set up my Cengage materials. It's asking me to create a course, which is basically, again, what we call the pairing process. Now, I mentioned that you're going to have to enter in a course key. That course key is entered on this screen here. So it's really a matter of you determining, am I using the statewide online course? And if so, which course key do I use? So I mentioned that we're going to provide you with a spreadsheet of course keys. So on this spreadsheet, I'm just going to look for CINS 101. Here is that particular course here on the spreadsheet. So for CINS 101, yes.
Delilah, real quick, sorry to bother you. In that same account are about two 222s and 218s. Why don't you go through it with 218, the course key for 218?
Do you want me to continue the CINS 101 process?
No.
Or just,
actually, I think there's a typo in that course key which is throwing it off.
I corrected it earlier today.
Oh, okay. All right, go for it.
Okay, I went through the process a little bit before our training. Okay, so this course key should work. But for CINS 101, I'm going to refer to my spreadsheet. I know, just based upon maybe my conversation with my program chair, that I am teaching from the online statewide course. So I'm going to use this spreadsheet that Cengage provided to me. If I weren't teaching from the statewide course and I were using a locally developed shell, I would not use this course key. This course key is only applicable if I'm using the statewide shell. If I'm using a locally developed course, I need to either contact the program chair to obtain that course key. Okay? So I'm just going to go ahead and grab this course key because this is required of me. And you'll see this column here where it says action required. It tells me that the action required is that I need to choose the option to copy from another instructor. So if I go back to this page here, it actually says copy a colleague. So we're going to change the wording to match what you see here. But it's going to say action required, copy from another instructor. If the action required indicated that I needed to create new, I would choose this option to create new. And you'll see that if you create new, it tells you you do not need a course key. But for this particular course that I'm working on, the action required is to copy from another instructor, and it provides me, the spreadsheet provides me with the key that I would use for this online state-developed course. So again, I'm going to choose the option to copy from a colleague or copy from another instructor. This is where I plug in my course key. I'm just going to go ahead and click on this verify. And now it's just going to ask me for some basic information about my course. So I'm going to give my course name, CINS 101. And we typically, when we name these courses, we use like the exact same name in Blackboard. So CINS 101 00D D1 2016-20. This is what I would name this course. So let me go ahead and do that. So CINS 101 00D D1 2016-20. So this is my course name. I'm going to put the date my course starts. Kevin, what's the course start date?
The 22nd, next Monday.
All right. I'm going to put in the 22nd as my course start date. And we typically push these courses out a year just in case you have a student who is retaking the course. So you can push it out for a year or 2 years, but the most important piece of information is your actual course start date. Because with the majority of the courses at Ivy Tech moving away from the Include Ed model, your students, they are going to be prompted to enter in an access code when enrolling in or when accessing your STEM or your MindTap content. When they're accessing your Cengage content, they are going to be prompted to enter in an access code. So when you're setting up your course start date, this is going to help drive the free trial of grace period that we give your students. So we give them up to 3 weeks of grace period access, and it's going to start on the actual start date of your course. All right? So again, I just chose copy from a colleague. I entered in my course key. I clicked verify. Now I'm just putting in my course name, start date, and date. And I think you guys are on Eastern time, so I'm selecting my time zone and clicking continue. And then it just takes a moment to activate those Cengage learning materials. And now moving forward, when I'm in Blackboard, if I were to click on, now that I've activated that content, moving forward, when I click on any of this content, instead of prompting me to pair or to create a Cengage course, it's going to recognize that this course is now set up. My students, they can now get into these materials because it's now activated. So let's walk through that process one more time, and then for another STEM course, and then we'll walk through it again for a MindTap course, just to kind of repeat it to make sure everyone is familiar with the process. Okay, so Kevin, did you mention that the boat 218 is also in here?
Yep.
Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and look for one of those Boat 218 courses. And again, I am using, in this particular example, I'm using the standardized statewide shell. So I'm going to go ahead and click into my Boat 218 course. I'm going to locate one of the Cengage learning activities by trying to locate that little blue logo. Again, in your instructor resources, for a lot of the courses in the instructor resources, we place the link in there. So in instructor resources, here is that Cengage learning icon. I'm just going to go ahead and click on it. Since this is my first time accessing Cengage learning from this Boat 218 course, it's prompting for me to pair or to create my Cengage learning materials. So since I know I am using the online course, I'm going to refer to that spreadsheet that's going to be provided to you guys, and I'm going to search for the Boat 218. So here is Boat 218, and it tells me that this is my course key. So you can see that each of these course keys is unique, and that's why it's very important for you to use the appropriate course key whether you're using the online standardized shell or you're using the face-to-face, you want to make sure you grab the appropriate course key. So here's my course key here. I'm going to go back to this screen. In that spreadsheet, it said that the action required was for me to copy from another instructor, so I'm going to use copy a colleague. I'm going to go ahead and plug in that course key that I grabbed from the spreadsheet and click verify. Now it's time for me to enter in my course name. So this is Boat 218, and let me grab the rest of the course name. Boat 218 00K. K1 2016-20. So here's my course name. I'm going to go ahead and put in my start date of the 22nd. And I'll just push my course end date a year out. And I'm going to go ahead and select my time zone. So again, once it redirects this page, it's going to update my Cengage learning materials, and now it's set up. And again, that's just so you can see that you only have to set it up using one link, and you only do this at the beginning of each semester for every course that you're teaching. So if you were teaching 3 CINS 101 courses and you weren't setting it, and Cengage was not setting this up, you would have to walk through this process 3 times on your own. Okay, so for those of you who are on the call and you're not using SAM, perhaps you're using MindTap, I'll just walk through that process with you for MindTap just so that everybody's comfortable with the process. And you'll see that the process is fairly similar, but I just want to make sure that everybody's comfortable because this may be new for some of you guys. So I'm going to go ahead and just log out of this particular Blackboard account and log into an account that has some courses that's using MindTap.
Real quick, we had a question for, I believe, the History 111 and 112 courses where there's no course key. For those, it says that it's not necessary. And so I'm assuming that there's still some setup that needs to be done for those, but there's just no course key. I don't know if you can explain that better.
Sure.
Yeah, I can.
So, go ahead, Kevin.
Sorry. Yeah, actually, I think I can take this one. So for History 111 and History 112, we don't have anyone using the shell in their face-to-face courses. So we will be taking care of all of the setup for you for the online versions of History 111 and 112. And Adam, it does get a little bit complicated. We set up a master course key on the back end of things so that instructors, if they use the course key, if they clicked create new, it would still give them the correct content. The problem is you can't do that when you have some regions using the technology one way and other regions using the technology differently than the statewide online courses. So we've done it where we can, but CINS 101, for example, it's built for the statewide online course, and then we have Lafayette using a version that they created themselves, or Fort Wayne using a version that they created themselves. So does that answer the question?
I believe so. I think that the person was speaking strictly about statewide online, but
yep,
yeah, it looks like they were. So you'll just be pairing those together like what you do with English 111 to where there'll be a minimal amount of setup, but most of it will be done on your end.
For all of the online statewide courses, we are going to do this for you guys. So the only instance where a faculty would need to walk through this process would be if you're using the statewide shell in your face-to-face or your hybrid courses.
Okay. So, and again, we'll make sure you guys have this PowerPoint so you can, so again, it kind of tells you for the standardized statewide course, this is going to be paired by Cengage Learning. If you're teaching like a face-to-face course, you can make that determination if you're going to pair it or Cengage is going to pair it if you're using the standardized statewide shell.
Okay, thanks.
All right. You're welcome. So now I logged out of those courses using SAM, and I'm just going to walk through this process for one of the courses taught at Ivy Tech that uses MindTap, for example. So, for example, let's see. I'm going to go ahead and use CRIM 105. So if I were teaching CRIM 105, which uses MindTap, and hopefully, you know, this webinar is talking about how you set up your Cengage materials. Hopefully you guys are familiar with what MindTap or SAM is, but that's a whole separate training, but this is just a process to at least get you comfortable with how do you set up that content. So I'm going to go ahead and click on CRIM 101. And I'm going to go into one of the class sessions because I'm not sure if this has a Cengage link underneath the instructor resources. And I'm going to go into session 4. And I'm just choosing session 4. You can probably go into a different session. I just so happen to choose session 4. And again, I'm looking for any of these Cengage learning icons with the blue logo here. So now that I've located one, I'm just going to go ahead and click on one to launch it. And it's going to prompt for me to create a course because this is my first time accessing these Cengage. Oh, looks like somebody already set this up. Kevin, is there a good course that I can use?
Yeah. Yep. How about Econ 101? Or do you need one with a course key, Delilah?
I can use one without a course key because this gives us good practice to show. So is Econ 101 in the Cengage 3 account?
I am checking right now. It is in Cengage 3, yep.
Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and click on one of the Econ 101 courses. And I want to just locate one of the Cengage learning icons. And again, totally random which session I'm going in. I would first, if I were you, I would check in if there's an instructor resources to see if there's a link to Cengage Learning. All right, so here are my different Cengage Learning materials. I'm just going to go ahead and click on this. This is the standardized statewide shell for Econ 101. So I'm going to refer to that spreadsheet here, and it tells me for Econ 101 that I don't need a course key. It just tells me to choose the option to create new. So I am following the instructions on this particular screen here. So I am going to go ahead and click Create New. I'll name my course. So it's Econ 101 O2F S3. (2016-20). And now I'm just going to go ahead and put my start date. So you can see that, you know, some of this may be a little bit redundant. It's just really a matter of do you or don't you need a course key, and if so, which course key do you use? And that's it. My course is set up. So just, again, if you're using one of those online courses, refer to the spreadsheet. So we may have other questions, and I know this webinar was supposed to be about 30 minutes, so before we open it up for any final questions, I do just want to point out that Cengage, if you have any questions or you run into any issues with this process, you can definitely reach out to your local Cengage team. We are definitely here to assist. And I also just wanted to use this time to talk about the expanded support hours that we have for your students. So previously, I don't think Cengage we had really any weekend hours, but that's changed. many of you will be happy to know that we now have expanded support hours. So I'm going to go ahead and pull that up just to kind of make sure you're aware of those. So we have Monday through Friday, we have 24/7 support. Let me get to that. So Monday through Friday, we have 24/7 phone support starting for rush hours, which is going to start in a week when your classes start. Those hours on Monday start at 8 a.m. on Monday, and those phone lines are open all the way until 7 p.m. on Friday. And then after 7 p.m., those agents, they go home and they take a break, but they resume on Saturday between 8:30 to 7 and Sunday 8:30 to 3 a.m. So we typically, for those weekend hours, we chose the time where we know students are up working on assignments. So you can see like Sunday, it's all the way up to 3 o'clock in the morning. And then here are our non-rush hours. And as always, we have the 24/7 case support, and there's also chat support at support.cengage.com. Kevin, did you have anything you wanted to add? And then we'll see if there are any additional questions in the chat window.
The only thing that I wanted to add, where an instructor needs to pair their Cengage instructor account to Ivy Tech's Blackboard, that's unique to the instructors. Students do not need to do that. In the case where they will be using access codes, that's the only time they're going to have to put something in. They'll enter their access code. They do not need to create a separate account. They will simply access all of the content through their Ivy Tech Blackboard login credentials.
All right, and again, if you guys have any questions, definitely feel free to reach out to us individually or utilize the Cengage tech support. Were there any questions in the chat window? Is there any areas that...
Yeah, there are a few here. The first one says, I think I have my course set up. I did that over the weekend. I would like instructions I can supply to my students for how to get enrolled in the MindTap portion of my class.
That's the great thing about it. So really the students don't need to enroll in the MindTap portion. They will automatically be enrolled. As soon as they click on one of those blue links, it's going to ask them for their access code, but that's it. That's the only time they'll have to enter anything in.
And Kevin, where do they obtain those access codes?
Through their Ivy Tech bookstores.
Okay. So again, they don't have to create an account. They don't have to go to a special website to register. All of your Cengage learning materials are already embedded within Blackboard. They just click on one of these links, and the first time they do that, they'll be prompted to enter in an access code, and once they do that, they'll never have to enter it again for this particular course and semester.
Yep.
All right, just the thing that I will also point out, because we're saying that, is just you'll see that when I click on one of these links, it launches in a new window. So just you and your students just to make sure you're allowing pop-ups. That's going to be probably the biggest thing. You can see when I click on that, it launches in a new window. So if I have pop-ups preventing that, then that window won't launch. Other questions in the chat?
There is one more. It says one access code per course, or one access code will cover up any courses they take that use MindTap, and I can answer that one. I mean, they're going to need a different access code for each book that they have for MindTap, so that's going to be different for each one.
Correct. Yep.
There is somebody asking about the first 3 chapters of the book. I don't know that we have that information. Maybe, it doesn't look like Cliff answered that. So it looks like we do have that information of where they can go to get the first 3 chapters of the book. So.
Yep.
Well, and also,
and
go ahead, Kevin.
I think I know where you were headed as well, Delilah. We will have the updated, so each semester we have the Ivy Tech e-chapter solution for students that will go live before classes on Monday the 22nd with all of the newest additions and additions to a course and or a new book approved for use within Ivy Tech. But I think what Delilah was going to mention, there is a grace period where MindTap and SAM all have versions of our ebook, up to 3 weeks for a 16-week course. The point of that is to make sure if students are struggling with financial aid or financial aid is delayed for any reason, they can get access to an electronic version of the book through their technology, be that MindTap or be that SAM.
Okay, a few more have come in here. Do students have to purchase anything but their book to use the course if I load it in Blackboard for a face-to-face class? Oh, somebody answered that one, Cliff did. Bonnie asks, what is a crossover error? I don't know if she's referring to something you already said there.
It sounds like Bonnie may be getting a specific error that probably not a common practice. So if Bonnie, I can reach out to Bonnie afterwards to see exactly what's happening. Because a crossover error just sounds like there's something unique happening with her account. So is this Bonnie Noting?
Bonnie Kuntz.
Adam, is it possible for you maybe to forward me Bonnie's name and email address, and then I will follow up with her specifically after this call.
Okay. Mary Harnish-Fager. Nope. Cliff answered that one. Phone number for Cengage support. I would imagine that that's through the help tab, but I would probably post it here as well too if you have that.
Right. We will make sure to send that out as part of the, actually, you know what? The best practice for students to reach out to Cengage support would be to, and let me go ahead and show you this in one of the courses that we have. A majority of those courses we've placed on links for Cengage support for students to click on a support icon where they can fill out a ticket, and once they do that, it provides them a number to contact, but we like to just capture some information from them on the front end. So I'm not sure for this Econ 101 if they placed the link for Cengage support.
I don't know if this one's going to have it, Delilah. It's one of the first courses to use MindTap. CINS 101 definitely does.
Okay, well, let's talk about if you have not placed a link in here for your, or you don't see a link in here for your students for support. If they were within MindTap, for example, and let me just go ahead and, MindTap is already open here. So if they were in MindTap and they were having an issue, there should be a customer support link within MindTap. So if they just click on this customer support link within MindTap, they can come out to this area here and fill out a case. And once they fill out a case, it's going to place a telephone number if they want to call in immediately for them to contact Cengage support. But we'll also, as follow-up to this training, send you guys the numbers directly. But just to kind of help speed things up and keep that traffic down at the beginning of the semester when people may be calling in, we do ask for the students to submit a case first so that we can capture some information about them, and then they can always call in to speak to an agent, because they're going to be presented with a case number once they fill out this form here and a telephone number where they can call. But again, we'll send you the direct number. The number, I thought I had an updated number, but it changed, so I just don't want to give you the wrong number at this point in time. Okay, any other questions?
The other, real quickly, I will mention, of course, no technology is flawless, and anyone that says that theirs is perfect is probably not being truthful and honest. We've had literally tens of thousands of students use MindTap over the past 3 years within the Ivy Tech system. So again, no technology is flawless, but hopefully it is designed to help and augment your teaching and not be a hindrance to you. So hopefully that holds true.
All right. Any additional questions before we conclude today's session? All right, we will be sending you a list of those course keys if you're going to be using one of those online shells in your face-to-face course and you want to pair it yourself. As Kevin mentioned, we do all of the pairing for those of you who are teaching the online standardized course. We'll be sure to also send you that support contact information as a follow-up to this training. And with that, thank you everyone for coming out to attend today's session.
Well, thank you, Kevin and Delilah, for presenting this, and we will have a recording of this later set up and send that out also.
Thank you.
Thank you, and y'all.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate the time.